So these are some stories about him. Memoirs of an Expensive Lady Prostitute by William the Guinea Pig. It was a cold day in hell, or as she liked to call it, Berlin in the 30s. Everyone was either a prostitute or a spy of some description. William was both. Soft, curvy and dark-eyed, she was unforgettable, both in bed and out of it. She was a very sexy guinea pig. Everyone thought so, which was mostly why they paid her. For sex. She wasn't cheap though. Her lifestyle required a certain income level. Foie gras facials, champagne baths, Louis Vuitton shoes and handbags as disposable chamber pots. William had it all. And who was going to take it from her? No one, she murmured. I earned this life and I'll do anything to retain it. With that purpose in mind, she had hired a retainer. She wasn't sure what exactly a retainer did, but she felt the need for one if she was to remain securely snuggled in luxury's gilded lap. I want to retain everything except water, she told him, and he nodded his long, wise face. Her retainer was an Afghan hound. His name was Mordecai. He sometimes wore clothes, but not all the time. William didn't care. She gave not a fig for propriety. Not one fig, I say, said William. What was that? Asked Mordecai. Nothing, said William, nibbling on some bonbons made out of broccoli and dandelion leaves for her by the finest chef in all of Berlin. His name was Bob. He was a part-time ferret, and damn it, he could cook. Cook like a dream. Bob the ferret and William had quite a history together. Quite a history together, if you know what I mean. What I mean is that there will be a sexy flashback involving Bob, a fondue receptacle in a chalet in the Swiss Alps later on in this book. This book is going to be very titillating, but not gratuitously so. One must be titillating to accurately convey the ups and downs of life as an expensive lady prostitute. William exited the bath and dried herself on a silken towel, handcrafted for her heavenly form at an atelier in Berlin's expensivest district. She perused her immense wardrobe with a keen and sexy eye. What could she wear to display her dusky eyes, which had so attracted her illustrious client in the past, to their best effect? The midnight-hued chiffon and taffeta cocktail gown, dotted with as many tiny yet perfect diamonds as were the skies themselves dotted with stars. The night skies, mind you, not the day ones. They had no stars at all, which William thought was a terrible pity, for expensive prostitutes live for the starlight hours, and champagne, and cigarette holders, and foreign men with beards who shower them with gifts but make no promises. War is coming, said Mordecai, the canine retainer. William threw a slipper at him. William was always doing feminine, silly, impulsive things like that. Throwing slippers, crying at the opera, purchasing exotic animals as pets, gelding her servants to make them more docile, were other silly, feminine things that William often did. I cannot abide this talk of war, Mordecai, said William. I sometimes think you allude to it just to scare me. But you will not scare me, for mine is a charmed and selfish life, and no one will ever teach me how to care for others or be anything but that which I am, a very expensive lady prostitute and part-time jazz musician. Mordecai said nothing, but his dark eyes glinted wisely. A storm was coming, he thought to himself, a big, wild storm of some description. I wish someone would throw a ball or even a stick for me, he thought miserably. Then maybe, for a moment, I could forget. Later, dressed as a Guinea-saurus rex to satisfy the lusty pleasures of a deviant raccoon, William sighed prettily. Sometimes the life of an expensive lady prostitute was not all it was cracked up to be. Sometimes she wanted more. End of chapter 1. Cages. William is writing a novel. It is called Cages, or Caged and Cage. He can't decide. It is a tell-all memoir of a life lived in captivity, as well as a much-needed critique of the oeuvre of Nicolas Cage. William has only seen 2 Nicolas Cage films, G-Force and Peggy Sue Got Married. He also saw the trailer for The Wicker Man, and it blew his mind. I have offered to lend him some further DVDs, but he remains adamant that he and Nick have a special bond, forged by William's living in the versatile actor's surname, and William doesn't need to watch any more Nicolas Cage films than he already has. He won't let me read any of the memoir though, and this is worrying because he keeps glaring at me in a funny way. A way that says, I have made up some hardcore stuff about you in order to attract a readership, and you better keep stum about all the abusing you haven't been doing, or I'll see you in hell, missy. Also, how adorable is Nicholas and Peggy Sue Got Married? So adorable. Kathleen Turner was a lucky woman. William, like Laurence Olivier before him, can say many things with a single burning glance. He would make a great Hamlet. Addendum. An extract from Cages? Found while cleaning out his cage. I was by now living in my own filth, surrounded by what can only be described as barn-dried hay and newspaper. It was the Sunday Times. I refused to read the Sunday Times because of Murdoch. She knew that, and yet she thwarted me with its news and information. I knew so little about the outside world. She rarely spoke, unless it were to argue with me over whether or not the guinea pigs in G-Force were realistic. If you're so unhappy, why don't you escape from your cage in some sort of high-tech harness? She was constantly asking me. I had no words to tell her that I could not. Guinea pigs cannot do that in real life. I am William. My life is real, and lo, it has been stolen. Other than that, though, G-Force was an enjoyable movie. I liked the bit where the guinea pig kicked the dog. Someday I would like to kick a dog. Nicolas Cage is awesome. He does not have a H in his name. Other people sometimes do. Nicholases, or Henrys, but I was thinking of the name Nicholas. What Nick and I have in common is that he too is caged, both by his surname and by the media. Curse the media. Will we never be free? I used to dream in my cage of the day I would be free, me and Nicholas, strolling down Sunset, him with a coffee, me with some dandelion leaves. Through slurps and munches we would discuss guinea pigs, Elvis, and the bit in the trailer for The Wicker Man where he's all, oh my God, bees. Just before we parted ways, he would turn to me and say, William, so wistfully it would almost break my heart, but the heart of a guinea pig is made of stern stuff, and so, though I wanted to take him in my arms and gently nibble his stubble to see how it tasted, I would punch him manfully on the shoulder and say, you did good, kid. And Cage would smile, his expressive face transfixed with joy, sheer joy, and it would be angelic, like it was when he played an angel in the film City of Angels. I haven't seen that film, and after that moment, that sweet and to be savoured moment, I would no longer need to. Mentally deleting it from my Netflix queue, I would bask in Cage's light, and in that moment, freedom. Attached to this extract was a hastily scrawled notelet. In the next chapter, you turn to drugs. Your move, Sullivan. Theo and William are fighting. I know this because William is holed up in his castle, being bristly and shuddering. Theo seems fine, so maybe it is only William that is fighting. He really resents Theo lately. This is mainly because Theo is sending demos out to record companies. Theo is my other guinea pig. Hoping to get his eclectic mix of folk mocktronica out there. His promising future and tiny little quiff are seriously getting on William's wick. Right on his wick, as a matter of fact. Theo has basically spent his time in our lives searching endlessly for William's wick, and now that he has finally found it, he will probably never leave William's wick, especially if a recording contract is forthcoming. For William too, once harboured dreams of music-related success. Flashback. The year is 1998 and William is a hot young guinea pig about the time. Whether he is strolling the boulevards of Sligo or wondering whether he could get away with wearing 2 pop collars at once. 2 pop collars was and still is a bit much, but back then there was very little William couldn't get away with. Sligo, coincidentally, was home to a band of boys, the catchily named IOYOU, pronounced Ioya. They had recently had a meeting with one Louis Walsh who told them that they had to find a handsome one and promptly. William fit the bill like the handsomest overdraft ever. He couldn't sing, of course, because he was a guinea pig, but they told him that probably wouldn't matter. Probably is a very dangerous word, especially in the cruel world of pop and roll. Cut to. The year is still 1998, but it's July instead of earlier in the year. William has been performing with IOU, now named West Side after the handsomest side of William's face, for 3 months to packed houses and really enjoyable First Holy Communions. He does a great on Eagle's Wings and has been trying to write his own songs too. Nothing brilliant, you understand, just a few things he's jotted down on the backs of napkins. Nothing earth-shattering or anything, but still, maybe they could be B-sides on the album. There's probably definitely going to be an album, Louis says, and William is excited. He has this idea about them all wearing different versions of the same outfit, so people know that they're individuals, but the kind of individuals that form a unit. Also, someday he would really like to wear matching cream pinstripe suits and fedoras. He knows it sounds crazy, but he thinks it would look suave and help people to take their music seriously. William talks a lot about the music. He knows he's really only in the band because of his looks, but my God, the harmonies and smoothness of the other lads is compelling. He'd do anything to see them succeed. But sadly, William's bright future is haunted by a sort of future darkening cream, in the shape of one Brian with a Y, even though I was christened Brian with an I, McFadden. William is handsomer, but Brian can hold a tune, and he has curtains in his hair. William's fur won't grow long enough to fit curtains in it. And in 1998, curtainy hair and being handsome are inextricably linked. The tough call is made just as William orders an expensive Japanese body robot so he can be as tall as the other boys when they're on stage. The lads are sorry, they really truly are, but there's just no way that Westside can accommodate 2 handsome ones. It's a mathematical impossibility. The joy and the fun that they had is over. The sun hides behind a cloud, and William puts a brave face on and pretends that he's cool with it, even when they change the name of the band, so as to not make Cian think about William and cry. Flash forward. I got that cyborg on hire purchase, William mutters. They repossessed it later. It was absolutely beautiful. 5'10" of pure technology. Looked great in a catsuit, especially with my Bambi-eyed head up top. He stares into the distance. I often wondered if they thought of that later, when curtains became less fashionable and Brian less handsome. Also, I wondered if they suspected it was me who was posting them envelopes filled with guinea poo and tears. I also got the envelopes on hire purchase. Paid them off though. Every cent. In time. Excuse me, I think I see Theo enjoying himself. I have to go and bite him. And he is gone, like a number 16A in the night, waggly, dignified and still, after all these years unquestionably handsome. I'm not saying that Westlife, as they became, made the wrong call. Only, they kind of made the wrong call, didn't they? Should have been William. And then I have a little picture of Brian McFadden with should have been William. That man never really took off. Anyway, that's it.